while he's changed wonderfully, he hasn't changed in certain fundamental qualities. Yeah, like you, Leo. That almost from Leo's age, William has had a wonderful way of relating to people and a wonderful sense of humor that I'll give you one little vignette about, and a sense of wisdom and philosophy beyond what we thought was his age. The only example I'll give you, because Susan is going to give you other things, is that I think when William was only 2 still, they visited us in Virginia, and we went to National Harbor, and there's a little beach on the river, and there's a statue coming up, a god coming up out of the sand in various places. Prometheus, yes. And this part of that is this large head with a big open mouth, and children could climb. And this very little person climbed up onto Prometheus, put his head inside the jaws of Prometheus, and said for everyone to hear, "I'm a snack." Psychology teaches that children don't really develop a sense of the absurd or a sense of humor until about, 5 or 6 and such. We've learned that that's just not so. Anyway, let me pass this on to you.
I think that Don knows the same guy that I know, because the stories are very similar. When Kenny asked me to do this, immediately 3 moments in time came to mind. The first was when William was visiting us in Virginia. We went to a restaurant, and he wanted no part of the high chair because he was going to go to every table in the restaurant and introduce himself and say hello. Fortunately, he was very well received, so that friendliness, that people quality was already there. And then at about 5 years old, well, it was 5 years old because it was the beginning of kindergarten, these guys had moved from Providence, Rhode Island to LA, and he was just starting kindergarten. I agreed to be the teacher's helper that day, as they had a field trip in the woods. And the first thing the teacher asked before going into the woods was, "What do we have to watch out for?" And William's hand, "Shut up, poison ivy!" And the teacher said no, and turned her back on him. I was furious. I thought that was so insulting. He had just come from the East Coast. What did he know about, poison oak or anything else like that? But he seemed to have built in to his personality a quality that we've taught about in our work, which is the presupposition that there is no failure, only feedback. And he just took it as, oh, well, okay, poison oak. So that was another element of who he seemed to be becoming. The last thing that came to my mind, again, when Kenny asked me to do this, was much more recent. We didn't get to see this play and wanted to very much because we were told that he was the romantic lead in his school play. So I thought, okay, 13, romantic lead. So I asked him, what was it like for you to be the romantic lead in this play? And he said, and preface this by saying, having known him over the years, I've noticed that you really have to pay attention to what he's saying because he delivers his lines with a very straight face. And you really might miss it if you're not paying attention. So I asked him, what was it like to do this lead? And he said, well, I am a teenager, but I'm a baby teenager. So we're here to celebrate as this baby teenager begins his venture into being a man. And it's wonderful to be here.
We have a few more people who have something to say about this baby teenager. Brandon, can I hand you the microphone?
Oh, sure. Get old, you get big glasses. So, is this thing on? So I thank you for asking me to speak on behalf of the sibling group. This is the Anya siblings, of which there are 5, 4 surviving. So, Elon, we met Elon, straightforward kid, nice earnest boy. You look at him and you go, yeah, I would give this kid my money. And then we met William, and you have an impish grin. I see it every time, and I said, oof, sorry, Anya. He got the G. So you you have the mischief, and Anya may not know where it comes from because I think it skips a generation, so she didn't get it. Kenny. Happy, fun-loving, but not necessarily nefarious like the mischief. Where did the mischief come from? It comes from your mother's brothers and sisters. So let me give you just some examples. So we have Mark. Mark was my oldest brother. We got Mark here. And when Mark was around your age, you know what he learned to do? He learned to pretend to be practicing the saxophone while he was reading a comic book, saying that he learned to blow in and out to make his mother believe he was practicing. This is mischief. When he was at West Campus, which is used to be for 9th grade in Berkeley, he had an incident with the dean's office. There was an explosion, and Mark was asked to look at private schools. He actually ended up going to Lick-Wilmerding in San Francisco. So he had the mischief, but ultimately he made the mischief turn to the good. You have the mischief, make it turn good. Now Marky sings. He's a singer in a band. He's made a career out of music. His most famous song is "Blow Me," a Kiss.
No.
And he plays hijinks with the other Bohemians every summer up in the Bohemian Grove. So he turned the mischief to good. Let's talk about Eric, my other brother. Figured out a way to convince Berkeley High School, where you'll eventually be going, to treat playing pool as physical education. I remember him coming home. He had a cue in one of those cases that you snapped open. He wore a long leather jacket and he hung out in a pool hall, and that was his PE credits. Okay, so good mischief coming out of that side. Now, I also went to law school with Eric. Eric went to law school with the next president of the United States over in San Francisco. And I was, because Eric had a prior career selling cars or whatever he was up to, he started after me. So I thought, hey, I'm the younger brother, but I'm going to show him the way around. I'm going to show him the ropes in law school. I meet up with him, I say, what's going on? He's got his whole first year class addicted to brain power, antioxidant multivitamins. They're all worried they're not gonna do as well as the person sitting next to him, so that they all subscribe. He's making money as a first year law student. And he's turned that into a career of using his business acumen. He's now making theme parks in Thailand for Sony, so that they can have a Ghostbusters and other project themes in real time. So good mischief, good mischief. Now let's talk about Rachel, Sister Rachel. Rachel was a bit of a mischievous one. So Rachel was, she went to Willard. I don't know, are you going to Willard?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know why Rachel went to Willard? She was ordered to go there by the school district because she was too much trouble hanging out with her other friends. So she had to go across town according to the superintendent of schools. So there was trouble going on at that period of time. She was tear gassed during the riots. Terrible thing. The kids were locked down in Willard in Berkeley. The riots were going on. She snuck out, went down to the riots against her mother and father's advice, and picked up empty tear gas canisters as souvenirs to bring back home. So this was Rachel, but she's now turned it all around. She's made it into good mischief. She has you've been to her place or have her ranch out there. You know how she lives. She holds a whole pottery ranch out by Burning Man. So she's turned that mischief around. Let's talk about, you won't hear much about Noah. Noah's not here tonight. Noah passed away, but Noah, up the street at Bolt Hall, gonna graduate from law school. His mother could never be more proud. Her son is gonna walk across the podium and receive a Juris Doctorate degree. As he walks across, he hands the announcer the card that they're gonna read off the name, and his mother watches as they read off, next up, Michael Jordan. Mischief, even graduation from an elite university. So, and then we come to me, often in trouble. I was locked in the closet more frequently than any other kindergarten student when I was at Oxford. Maybe prior to my older brothers, I don't know. They may have. My mouth was washed with soap because of some of the things I said in third grade. And they used to have this pink, kind of gritty soap that would come out of a big, And I was a smart aleck. And now I get to talk for a living, so I get to be a smart aleck for what I do as practicing law. So good mischief. So in summary, you're coming up. I know you feel it. Sometimes you feel like being bad. Sometimes you feel like being good. You got the angel. You don't know. You know what to think. Figure out a way. You can be bad. You can be clever, but be good about it. If you make a joke, make the teacher laugh, and they'll be with you. And turn it on the good track, and it'll serve you well for the rest of your life.
There's has nothing to do with why this kid has always sat with the weird kids in class who don't laugh at his jokes. That's just a coincidence. All right, I'm going to just share a little bit that Anya has the closest thing to a sister of her own age in Elizabeth, and Wendy, Elizabeth's mom, is a member of this club. Unfortunately, she had to be in Paris.
I know, so sad.
Oh, so sad. She couldn't be here, but I just want to give a shout out to Wendy because she got us in here. Not only is it just special to be in this building, but this building was built by Julia Morgan, and the house that the Bounds grew up in was also a Julia Morgan home, and that house is almost part of the family. So it was very important to us to kind of celebrate Julia Morgan, and also just happen to love this place. So with that, let me hand the mic to Elizabeth.
Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear in the back? Okay. First of all, I just want to thank Dawn and Susan for this lovely evening. Thank you so much for your hospitality. It's just a wonderful opportunity to celebrate William. So as Kenny said, I'm Elizabeth, and if you don't know me, which most of you don't, Anya is my rock. We met in Tiny Tots at Live Oak Park when we were 2 years old, and we have been together ever since. So I watched Anya meet and fall in love with Kenny and marry him. I watched Elon born, and then I watched Anya choose the most adult sounding name I'd ever heard in the history of the world, William Moses Davis. And I was like, that is a lot of pressure for a child. But it actually ended up being really appropriate, because he was a very serious and intense little baby. Would you agree, Anya? This mischievous side did not show up when he was a baby. He would just stare at you with great intensity, and I remember thinking, you know what? That is a good name for that kid. He's like an adult in that little body. So over the years, he's had an array of names: Willie Mo, Mosey, William, Will, and I think some others, which really seems fitting to me because he is a multifaceted person and kid, and he's ever evolving. He's intellectual, he is athletic, he's focused, he's curious, and he's often silly and yes, mischievous, as Brandon said. So William, I want you to know that when your mom and I were little, we never went to B'nai Mitzvah. Religion and tradition were not very popular in Berkeley in the 70s. And sometime privately, I will tell you about how your mother felt about religious traditions. So we did not go to them. And I gotta tell you that I think we missed out on a lot, because I think that a lot of ceremonies and rituals and traditions have a lot of value, which is actually why I too studied the Torah and studied Judaism later. But I think a lot of these things do bring a lot of value in our lives, such as B'nai Mitzvah. So just a spoiler alert, turning 13 doesn't actually make you an adult, but it is a real time of transition that is worthy of celebration. And so you've been developing your spiritual life and awareness through Torah study, hopefully. And hopefully you are also developing an understanding that the folks who are celebrating you here this weekend, they are not just people who ask you what grade you're in and comment on how much you've grown. Because I bet sometimes we feel like that's who we are, right? That's all we do is like, oh my goodness, you've gotten so big and all that. But your parents have actually curated very carefully a community of people who have your back as you transition into adulthood. We are the people who you can ask for advice, who you can ask for a place to stay, or you could ask for a loan. So, William, I'll tell you.
Don't do it.
Take notes. Ask Brandon for a loan. William, I'll tell you that even at 51, I don't really know a lot about being an adult. It's really not my strength. But I do know that asking for support is a real sign of maturity, right? And so just remember that everyone here, we are here to help. We are here to cheer you on, and we are here to catch you if you fall, forever. So I hope this Bar Mitzvah weekend makes you realize how many people love you, how many people will show up for you always, okay? And so to end, I just want to read a poem that my mother wrote for you. She is in Paris and couldn't be here, but she sends her regrets, and this is her poem, I wrote it down so I don't forget. What can I say about Willie Moe? Solid kid from head to toe. Never too fast, never too slow, a skilled artist, you should know. On a skateboard, he's a pro, to say nothing of what he does on the snow. Great friend, great son, great bro, that's our Willie Moe. Mazel tov.
So dessert has been served. I think Rafa can attest, the first one's great, but the second and third are really good. Are you want
Just
to say
a
something?
little note that we have a birthday in the house. It is my niece Amelia's birthday. And we're so excited that she could join us. She's been in Japan for many years, and we're finally get her at our family celebration. So I want to say happy birthday. Thank you. All right.
That's it. Enjoy dessert. We'll have some more speeches tomorrow, so you'll find out a lot about this kid tomorrow.